Bearcat Blitz, final game week episode of this just flat out rough 2023 season for the Cincinnati football team. I'm your host, Russ Heltman, All Bearcats reporter. Check us out on allbearcats.com for all your UC football and basketball coverage. Basketball team in full swing now as well. Joined as always by my co-host across the way there, Dominick Goodman, former UC wide receiver. We are going to kind of get to some of the news and notes that happened around the program this week, and then we will dive into a Kansas preview on the back end of the show. UC entering that game on Senior Day at Nippert Stadium as 6-point underdogs. Got to tell you about Bet Online first, though. The holiday season is off and rolling with NFL in full stride and the NBA and NHL hitting mid-season form. Bet Online is your number one destination for all your sports wagering info with up-to-minute sports wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. Bet Online is the top spot for everything pro and amateur sports, and not just the Big Four. Bet Online has info available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time for almost any sport that is played. From MMA to international soccer, head over to Bet Online today. And remember to use our promo code BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Once again, that's BELIEVE, BLEAV. Bet Online, where the game starts. Thank you all so much for picking us as your podcast choice right now, whether that's on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you're getting your podcast, Amazon as well. Also find us on Talking Cats with Russ Heltman. Subscribe and give us a big thumbs up on the like button over on the YouTube page. Plus, you can find us on Bally Sports Ohio as well. A lot of people checking us out throughout the football season. Thank you all to everybody who has sent me screenshots or just live action shots of them watching on bars or TV at home, all that good stuff. Dominick, it is Senior Day coming up in just a couple of trips around the time. What am I even looking for here? The time clock. I'm all discombobulated right now, just like the Bearcats football team is, as we get into the final game week look at the season. Before we do that, though, Dominick, Chamon Metayer enters the transfer portal before the season even concludes. It was a bit of a shocking announcement when it happens. I think maybe people within the team not as super shocked to see the overall exit of Chamon Metayer. It feels like it's going to be a definite exit this time around after he entered the transfer portal last year and ended up coming back once the new staff got him back into the fold there. But any way you slice it, Dominick, whether you look at Chamon Metayer as a major asset or not, he has been one of their best receivers all season long. Not saying a whole lot there, considering how poor the wide receiver production has been, but I believe I'll go ahead and get the numbers here as you react to the news, but he's one of their top three players in terms of catches, yards, and he's their number one touchdown scorer on the offense through the air.
I mean, it's a tough loss, oh man, wish he could have stuck it out, you know what I'm saying, just for at least to the end of the game. I mean, for the end of the season. But he's a young man making his own decision, feeling what's best for him, and he got to do what's best for you. I mean, he did a lot of great things this season. He was a joy to watch, and it was good to see him develop. Just kind of curious where his next step is and where he goes off to next.
Going to be interesting. I saw him kind of doing a little wink and a nod on Twitter to the Miami Hurricanes, which was a team that was heavily buying for his services in the recruiting ranks just a couple years back. So interesting to see what happens with Chamon Metayer. And Dom, it leaves this team with really no options at tight end. They are literally, I mean, I don't think I'm going out on a limb saying this. I don't think anybody in the staff would have a problem with me saying this. They are out of tight ends. They are going to be relying on Trevor Radosevich, the transfer guard center from the I think it was from Penn or something like that. He was one of the Ivy League schools, was maybe going to be a starter, was vying with Gavin Gerhardt throughout the offseason for that starting center job, has kind of filled in whatever role they've needed out of him along that offensive front. And now, Dom, they're going to be basically relying on him to be the go-to tight end with Chamon Metayer now off the team in the transfer portal, and Peyton Singletary announced by Scott Satterfield as out for this game, out for the remainder of the season, obviously with only one game remaining. The depth is something that Scott Satterfield talked about in the beginning of the year, having a possibility of getting shredded once they got to the end of the calendar. And that's exactly where we're at, Dominic, with that position especially, but also the run defense has completely fallen off a cliff, and Scott Satterfield really attributed that in large part to depth. And I would agree with him in that sense where they don't feel like they have a lot of guys that they can rely on in terms of the youth and what they've showed at practice throughout game weeks. And when you don't have a lot of guys you can rely on, even with a strong depth marker to begin the season on the defensive front, that's a brutal spot. It's a brutal few positions to play along that front, and you're still going to be banged up, nicked up, bruised up, and not necessarily on the injury report, but in situations like last week where you got one guy one-on-one with the ball carrier, those nicks and bruises, Dom, they can play a big factor in those open field tackles, and we saw that on full display with almost, 400 yards rushing last week. I forget the exact number, but 9 yards per attempt on 50 carries. The depth was hurting, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of the time you just gotta get creative, and I think that's what they're doing. And you just gotta be creative with how you attack it and attack the game plan. I mean, this is with losing when you out of tight ends, you gotta rely on O-lineman to come play that position.
Yep.
As far as just helps in the run game, having that extra blocker in there. Helps bring in people in the box to get your man-to-man coverage on the receiver. So it's just going to be interesting to watch and see what kind of game plan they come up with this Saturday. And when you don't have depth, man, it hurts. I mean, I remember I coached at New Miami High School, man. We last season the game we wasn't winning the game, but we only had 12 guys on the 12 guys. And you got 11 guys playing. I looked to the sideline. One guy got hurt. I'm looking. It was a little freshman. He had no business out there playing. So, but I'm looking at the guy like, bro, you got to suck it up. Like, we got to go.
Body needs to be out there. Can't be playing 11 on 10.
We need a wheelchair or some crutches. You got to go. You all we got. So I think that's a situation that the Bearcat has been going through, and it's a tough one as a coach. And even as a player, if you banged up and you looking on the side like, coach, I just need one. You looking like, coach, like, bro, you got to stay. And it's tough. So it's a situation this week is just where it's just going to be creative and just got to come with a master game plan, how to attack it. And I think far as just slowing the game down and just working with what you got, that's what's all going to be dependent on this week.
And unfortunately for the Bearcats, Kansas Jayhawks defense has one of the better secondaries, one of the deepest, speaking of depth, secondaries and coverage units when you look at the linebacker core as well in the entire conference. Going to be tough sledding through the air, especially when you think about 258 yards, 23 catches, and 5 touchdowns just walking out the door into the transfer portal in Chamon Metayer after Saturday's loss. Scored the 2 passing touchdowns that Cincinnati had in the blowout loss to West Virginia last week, 42-21. So that's a massive loss. Maybe in addition, maybe a spark that we might see out of the offense through the air could come from Brady Drogosh. Now, I think the big reason we haven't seen any of Drogosh really we haven't seen any of him at all since Eastern Kentucky, played 3 snaps, looked a little in over his head in terms of the offense and just the speed of the game and that action. And that was against an FCS team. And ever since, he's been kind of getting not necessarily scout team reps, but he's been getting 3rd string reps. And Dom, you know this from experience. Like when you're not getting 1st and 2nd string reps, it's almost malpractice to play the guy because you're just not putting him in a position to succeed. He's not getting consistent, as I mentioned, reps with the guys in terms of passing routes, passing patterns with those 1st string players. Your timing's going to be off. Your pocket depth, your pocket setting in terms of the pass rush and how you deal with that and how you adjust your offensive linemen, that's going to be off because you hadn't had reps with them. All that being said, we were not allowed to go to media was shut off for practice on Tuesday. I may have popped in anyways if it was at Nippert Stadium, but I was caught up with a lot of basketball stuff. They ended up practicing at the bubble downtown Cincinnati Bengals bubble in their indoor practice facility. So no media has seen what's happened at practice this week. There has been more kind of in practice game action type of feel for Drogosh in recent weeks. As Scott Satterfield noted, they've been doing a scout team scrimmage over the past 2 or 3 weeks to make sure those guys are just kind of staying engaged and getting enough reps there. Maybe that's enough paired with solid rep consistency this week from Drogosh, if he has it, to get him on the field and just see what he's got against this Kansas defense that, as I mentioned, it's not a great defense to say the least, but especially through the air, it's not necessarily a defense you want to play in your first real taste of power conference action.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to see him to go out there. And,
right. It would be nice to just see something else.
Yeah, it'd be nice, but it's senior night, man. It's Emory senior year, last game, college. It's kind of tough to pull a guy off, especially he came in, started it off, and he's been at 2 other schools. You kind of want to send a guy like that off in a good manner.
Right. And to that point, Dom, we've been hard on Emory. I've especially been hard on Emory this year, but I got to commend the guy for just portraying himself and leading the way he has through such a difficult season. He hasn't played great, but I wouldn't say Emory Jones has been the giant reason why this team is losing football games week in and week out. It's a consortium of things. And on top of that, he's always answered the bell whenever the media has asked for him this season. He's always come down there in the sport of college football. And we know this we see it on Twitter every week this season. High level players at high major schools, not answering the call of the media, not talking to the media, not answering after they play a poor game or anything like that. They just go in the locker room and they don't end up talking about it. Emory Jones has talked when he's played well, when he's played bad, and I will commend him for that. I think he's portrayed himself as a stand-up guy, and he's done everything you could possibly ask on and off the field, except for reach the high heights that maybe some people put on expectations for him entering this year. The ceiling that possibly could have been there, but as you mentioned, Dom, I think it's a day where sure you'd like to see Drogosh, sure you'd like to see Brady Lichtenberg, but honestly, after this game, you're not having bowl practices. You're not keeping that momentum going. You're going to have weeks off, a full December off before you actually get back on the practice field again. How much is one game's worth of 10 to 15 snaps really going to affect a guy when you can, on the flip side, show your veterans, show your seniors that, hey, despite a rough year, despite the roughest year this century for this program, we're still going to stick by our guys that have put in the work and have committed themselves to this program, whether it be for 1 year like Emory or 6 years like Taj Ward of Malik Van.
Because that's one thing, like you hit it on the nose, man. I mean, he took the role as a quarterback. When you play quarterback, you take all the criticism, good or bad. Yeah. And he's a guy that, like you say, he's took up to the plate and took all the heat. And at the same time, I mean, it's each game's been different. It's a collective thing. So it just sucks, because one game he's playing good, and then something happens with the defense, or a receiver drops the ball, or someone misses. And some games he plays bad, but you can't play perfect every game. And the thing I respect more about him is he always stay positive. He's not on the sideline pouting if he's getting taken out. He's not on the sideline getting mad. He's not going to silence. Things don't go his way. He's cussing people out. He's still got a cool head on his shoulders. He's still focused and still in the game. And you can tell he still loves the game. So, and this is a day where you honor a guy like that and give him that chance to play the whole game out and just have fun, man.
Yeah, maybe you pull the upset as 6-point underdogs. We'll get to that in just a moment. Dom, before we get the break here and get to a quick preview of the game against Kansas, do you have any senior day memory for you that sticks out that you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, my dad played at UC. He played at there. I basically grew up in the program all my life. So senior day, I didn't tell him. I just told my mom. So I went up to Coach Combs and Coach Kelly to see if I could switch my number for the game. And he was number 30.
Your dad's number?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He was 36. So I was like, all right, let me switch my number for it. Let me rock 36. So when I came out for him to meet me on the field, he took a look at me like, what's going on? Man, it was one of them emotional times where like he just it's rarely I see him cry, and he just was crying, man, just for the fact of like, every time as a father, you always want to see your son be successful. But when you see your son following your footsteps, it's a beautiful feeling, and it's something that we still talk about to this day. And just going out there playing with his number on, and that game, Coach Kelly was like, "Goody, I'm targeting you 10 times in the first quarter. And he didn't lie. He threw it to me 12 times in the first quarter, and he just kept throwing it to me. And it was just a good thing, good feeling, because it's you come in with the guys that you came in with and just seeing you all just putting that hard work from day one and really seeing the progress, especially our progress coming in, getting beat, getting beat bad our freshman year, and then the senior year we out here battling for we winning a Big East title and we're going to play in the Orange Bowl, and it was a great feeling, man. It's just something that senior night what brings is a whole bunch of like feelings and emotions, and just it's a great feeling, man. But it's sad at the same time because you're just like, dang, this is my last time playing in the NIP and possibly the last time playing with guys I came in with that I built a brotherhood with, and leaving the program and leaving the fans. It's an emotional day, but it's also something you never forget.
That was awesome. Really glad I asked that, because we wouldn't have got that story without that. That's so good. So was that just all your idea? Just you were like the week before, months leading up to it, you're like, all right, I'm gonna rock Dad's number and see what reaction I can get out of him.
Yeah, he was my role model, man. Like everything, like growing up, just seeing everybody take to him, everybody know him, everybody talking about him, hearing the stories when he played. It was just something that I wanted to get to and wanted to be. So, I mean, without him and my mom's, man, I wouldn't have got to where I was at to this day.
It's great stuff. Great story there from Dom. As we get to a break on Bearcat Blitz, we'll preview the Kansas matchup. 6-point underdogs. The winner will take the all-time series lead, 2-1. Big amount of contests between these two schools as they get ready for a lot more in the Big 12 in the coming years. Right here on Bearcat Blitz. Kansas Jayhawk preview time right here on Bearcat Blitz. I'm your host, Russ Eltman. He is my co-host right across the way, Dominick Goodman. This is it. This is the final preview of the season. Unfortunately, we will not be previewing a bowl game this year. No Fenway Bowl action, nothing like that going on in 2023. As honestly, maybe we'll look back on it as a positive. This time next year, this time 2 years from now, when we look back on the 2024 transfer portal haul, the 2024, 2025 recruiting hauls, we might think back and say that extra couple weeks they had to put some things together ended up being a positive. Maybe, just maybe, a lot of work to do for the recruiting staff, and that's going to be the main focus for our side of things over the next few months on Bearcat Blitz. But until we get there, we got the Kansas Jayhawks to preview right now as Lance Leipold's team comes into Nippert Stadium, 1-1 all time against the Bearcats. They have not faced each other since 1997, I believe. Yeah, 1997. Cincinnati 81st on SP Plus, Dom. Jayhawks are 40th. Cincinnati has a 37% chance to win, according to ESPN. They're 6-point underdogs. And when we look at this matchup, starting with UC's offense against Kansas's defense, Corey Kiner, Miles Montgomery, Emory Jones, leave it all out on the field this week, fellas. You got to go 1,000 miles an hour in this rushing game to overcome the issues that you're going to have passing the football against Kansas. They are not good against the run. 85th or worse in basically every major category. Yards per carry, 4.37 yards per carry on the ground. They're giving up 161 yards per game. Those are in the 80s. They've allowed 24 rushing touchdowns this year. That's 115th nationally, and they're 98th in big runs allowed of 30-plus yards. They've given up 8 of those this season. This is a game where Cincinnati's road graders, Emory Jones's agility, Corey Kiner's hard-headedness in the hole, all of that has to show up, especially on the interior, Dom, because when you think about the Kansas defense and that front, the interior options in terms of the defensive tackles, not very good, but the outside guys, the edge rushers, are very, very solid in names like Austin Booker and Hayden Hatcher. Both those guys over 75-plus run grades this season by PFF, and they're going to give you some issues, especially in the secondary. As I mentioned, this team is very, very solid. A very, very good defense led by Mello Dotson in the back end. He's got 4 interceptions this year. They got 12 combined as a team, 29 pass breakups, and 7 players that have played at least 400 snaps this year and boast 70-plus coverage grades on PFF or better. They got the 3rd best PFF team coverage grade in the Big 12 in terms of pass coverage at 87.3 overall. But Dom, before I give the floor to you on the Bearcats offense versus this defense, they're terrible in the red zone, man. They are terrible. And we know how bad UC is in the red zone. Something's got to give between these two bad units as the Jayhawks are allowing touchdowns on 67% of their opponent's red zone trips. That's 103rd nationally, while Cincinnati is 115th in total red zone scoring this year. Basically, if the Bearcats can find a way to punch it in, most likely on the ground, given how many rushing touchdowns the Jayhawks have given up, and control this clock and just use the winning formula that they've used to get a few wins this year, it's a game plan that can work against this Kansas defense, offense versus defense. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do it throwing for 100 to 160 yards per game, which is what has usually happened in losses this year.
I think this is just a game where you just throw everything out there, trick plays, razzle dazzles. You just throw it all out there. Like, you got what else you got to lose, you know? So it's with bringing an extra O lineman in to run the ball is going to help a lot. And I feel like that right there will help for us with the run attack.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
And also too, you're going to get man coverage. So now you can isolate your Xavier Henderson and where you can get plays out of him. It's his senior year too. So yeah, a lot of guys going to be playing hard, playing fast, and just trying to get a win because this is for the seniors, you know. And I just think that if they just stick with their game plan, like you said, just slow the ball down, slow it down, manage the game well, make your plays, make explosive plays on offense, and just really stay from 3rd and longs like we've been preaching all week. And when you get to the red zone, I mean, you got an extra guy in there to block. Why not keep running that thing, you know, because Connor almost 4,000. So it's things that they can do this game where it's going to send off a positive vibe for the next season and for it to come.
Real quickly, on the offensive side of things, Kansas punishing on the ground, and it could be a big problem in this game. They're going to kill you in similar ways that West Virginia kills you, with that read option, with the quarterback run game. Jason Bean, if he's out there, probably going to be a game-time decision again, or Cole Ballard. The 3rd-string quarterback's been solid this year. I mean, they got a great quarterback room that was headlined by Big 12 preseason Offensive Player of the Year, Jalen Daniels. He goes down. Bean goes in for extended time, and then Cole Ballard had to come in last week. Bean, 73.8 QBR out of 100 this year. Very, very good. And Ballard posted a 64 QBR out of 100. Those guys are solid, and the offense as a whole, 15th nationally with 202 yards per game, led by Devin Neal. He has been fantastic in this season. 1,100 yards on 6.4 yards per carry, 13 touchdowns. Daniel Hishaw, great compliment there at 8 touchdowns on 5.2 yards per carry. This is where I think UC loses this football game. I don't think they're going to be able to create enough turnovers to get enough possessions to outscore Kansas. And I don't think the quarterback run game is going to fall off a cliff enough for Kansas to make enough have enough rough drives and ultimately not find themselves getting the 35 or 40 points. Give me the Bearcats losing on senior day, 35-27. What do you got, Dom?
Defense, I feel like defense is going to play lights out because you got some seniors on that defense and some guys that just don't want to go out like that, because I just know when I play, I mean, like I said, our senior night, everybody's playing for the seniors. So in my opinion, I just feel like this is a game where you're going to get the best Bearcat team right now, because this is a team that's like, forget it, like, this is for the seniors, this is for everything we've been through, we're going to lay it all out on the line, and I got UC winning 27-14.
All right, there you go. For Dominic Goodman, I'm Russ Eltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz, presented by Bet Online. Enjoy the final game weekend, everybody.